I believe just looking back is, Sterling, investing yourself more on the sales side, and then also what the capital that you do earn from your business, take that and invest it back into yourself as well. So attending conferences, boot camps, and just traveling more to further just skill up to where I can be even more valuable to the marketplace.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you love entrepreneurship and investing in real estate, then you are in the right place. Josh is the CEO of Freeland Ventures Real Estate Private Equity and has personally invested in well over 500 properties all across the country. He's also made hundreds of private lender loans and owns over 1,000 units of apartments. Josh is an expert at raising private money for deals, and he prides himself on never having had a boss in his entire adult life. Josh and his team also mentor investors and entrepreneurs from all over the world. He doesn't dream about doing deals. He actually does them, and so do his listeners and students. Now sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
Hey, welcome back to Accelerated Investor, and welcome to 2020. Everybody's talking about 2020 vision and having focus on their new goals and objectives. I hope you're off to a fantastic part of your year by the time that you get this podcast. We'll probably be a month or so into the year, and we'll be off and running on our 2020 goals. So think 2020 vision, focus on your goals. I would love to see you say, as you listen to this now in the early part of the year, I would love to hear you say at the end of the year in November that you were still focused on the goals that you set for yourself back in January and December of 2019. You're still working hard and have accomplished those goals and leveled up because you stayed focused on what was important to you. You know, business, real estate, multifamily investing, single family rental properties, raising capital. It's just a tool. It's just a path to ultimately give you the lifestyle that you want. And that's what we're going to talk today about. My guest today is Sterling White. Sterling has been a full-time real estate investor for a long time. He's got over $10 million of equity capital invested in his portfolio, owns a $26 million portfolio of income properties, both residential and commercial. And we're going to talk today with Sterling about his entrepreneurial journey. We'll talk a little bit about property acquisition, raising capital, but we're going to talk to him about some of his fears, overcoming his fears, and staying focused on his goals. He is a massive contributor in the Bigger Pockets world and has been featured as well on their podcast. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Sterling White, to the Accelerated Investor Podcast. Sterling, what's going on? How are you?
Welcome, everyone. Get your popcorn ready. Absolute golden nuggets and bombs, and we're here to provide the value and make 2020 your year.
Yes, I love it, man. I love it. So you come to us from Indianapolis, Indy, but you invest all over the Midwest. So why don't we just start real quick, Sterling, by telling our audience, what is your focus for 2020? What is your key and primary investing strategy?
Yeah, so my primary strategy that I have is value add apartments. I know value add is very loosely thrown around. So it's older class assets that are generally built between the 1970s and 1990s that need work. And these apartments are workforce housing between 75 to 160 units.
Got it. I love the fact that you're really dialed in. 75 to 160 workforce, the age of the property, fantastic. So why are you specifically investing in those, like specifically 1970 to 1990 workforce housing, 75 to 160 units? I love the fact that you're so specific. What about your investing has pushed you down that path to be that specific? How has that worked for you to kind of be aligned in your goals?
Yeah, I would say one, the workforce housing, or you could say workforce housing is the technical term for it, but it's blue collar type residence that you have. And I feel that you're just not able to build that type of product in today's environment just due to the rising costs. So there is a shortage of that. So that's the bread and butter. And then also working in that is you're still able to find mom and pop operators. So for my I work with brokers, but haven't had much luck. So I've always gone direct with the owners to beat the brokers to the punch to find the deals, and that's where I've had the most success between that 75 to 160 unit range. And then in addition, you can get the economies of scale, as most people are aware of that, to where you can have an on-site manager and then also a maintenance guy. So I can have an apartment that's in a whole nother city and be able to have boots on the ground that is able to oversee the day-to-day.
That's great. Fantastic. I think a lot of people like that idea of knowing they can go to direct to owner, especially those folks that are straddling the fence between resi and commercial. They're used to going direct to sellers. So let's talk about that for a minute, Sterling. How has going direct to owner and beating the brokers to the punch, what are some strategies that have helped you get there and beat brokers to the punch? Maybe a couple favorite techniques without giving away every single secret. If you want to hold a few back, I respect that. But
I'll give it all away. I'll give it all away.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell us a little bit about that and in building relationships, because often, these people that I've met with, we own 2,400 units of apartments with joint venture partners. You often see people that are, in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, and they just want to get their cash out and become completely passive. They've been owner operators for a long time. So tell us about getting to them. What are some strategies? And then what about building relationships with them so they trust you? Because often their building is their baby, right? They don't want to just sell it to anybody.
So I would say the overarching idea, and one that really helped me be successful in terms of going to and there's always improvement, of course. It's just the overarching idea that even when you're buying, you're still selling. So it's a sales process in a way, and you have to be willing to get kicked in the face. I know it's tough to hear for many people, but one thing that has allowed me to get these deals off market is persistence and consistency. So I'm willing to get hung up on by an owner and then show up the next day at their office and say, hey, I just happened to be in the neighborhood, wanted to touch base. So just doing what others won't do in an ethical way. I have to mention that to everyone, of course. And yeah, that's the strategy, is finding distressed assets, pull the public records, find out who the owner is, which majority of the time it's in the LLC. So you have to take the additional steps to find the owner find the owner contact, and then just to pick up the phone and give them a call.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that it's just sort of old school, get in the dirt, get the lead, right? Find the phone number,
Exactly.
Give them a call, talk to them, follow up. Anybody can do that, right? There's not like some silver bullet software or something that you've got to have. What you just described, anybody can do if they're willing to put in the effort. And like you said, get kicked in the face a little bit and have persistence, because they're going to get a lot of no's or stop bothering me or stuff like that. But look, it just depends on how big your goals are, right? Are your goals bigger than your fears?
Your why.
Are your goals, your why, more important than some, being turned away? So let's talk about that, Sterling, a little bit. So now that we know kind of what you're focused on and what some of your strategies are, let's go back. Let's take a journey back to when you first got started in real estate, when you first started to think, this is something I want to do with my life, as opposed to everything else you could be doing. So what was your background? Where did you come from? And where did your passion for real estate begin?
Yeah, so I'll start all the way back, but give a very Spark Note version for everyone. So my upbringing, humble beginnings, had a single mother, a fraternal twin brother, and the type of environment that we grew up in, the neighborhood is, I remember one instance, my brother and I were actually sitting down at a little picnic table inside our apartment, and we were about 6 or 7 years old. And when we went upstairs, when we were done eating, a bullet came in right through the back patio where we were. So he or either I may not even be here. So that was the type of environment, Section 8 housing, welfare, but decided to ultimately use that as fuel. So the whole entrepreneurship came into existence for me at an early age, because I had to figure out how to earn money. And my first product was Kool-Aid. Second was Pokemon cards. And then transition how I got started in real estate was the construction side in 2009, where things were not going so well. And that's when I fell in love with the real estate, but not so much the construction element. And then shifted to buy and hold investing, purchase first single family house. And one of the, just taking a step back, the limiting beliefs that I had and fears before even actually jumping into the buy and hold side was I thought you had to have a large amount of capital, and that was only for the wealthy, and that if you didn't know what you were doing, you could just lose everything. So those were some fears that I had in limiting beliefs. However, I was able to find a mentor that combat that. Very first deal, bought it for $25,000 with his cash because I didn't have any cash at that time. I over withdrew my bank account, just not being financially smart, and he funded the rehab. And through that's when I got thrown into the fire with property management, managing the whole transaction with the title company. So got up to 150 single families. And then in 2017, made a complete shift to multifamily, where the first deal was actually a 46 unit.
Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's fantastic. So the self-limiting beliefs were you felt like you had to have a large amount of capital to get started. Mm-hmm. It was only for the wealthy, and you could get totally wiped out basically if you screwed things up. So what did you learn from your mentor to overcome those self-limiting beliefs? What did he tell you? What did he remind you of? What did he kind of pound into your brain to say, look, Sterling, this is not, you don't have to have a large amount of money. This is not just for the wealthy, and you're not going to get wiped out by a single transaction. How did you overcome that? Because you don't go to 0 to 150 single families and 0 to over 500 units unless you overcome those fears, right?
Yeah, and that's a great question too. How it happened was I just ended up saw that he had the need. He had the cash, but didn't have the time to find the deal. So I had the time to be able to find the deals, and my limiting belief was just shattered ultimately because I actually moved forward with just figuring it out. So by buying that first deal, and he actually funded it, that's when the limiting belief was replaced with a more empowering one that said, hey, you don't have to use your own cash. You can actually use other people's money.
Yes. Yeah, when I was coming out of my big surgery that I had for pancreatic cancer back in 2011, I borrowed money from private investors. I had done private lender deals before, but my audience knows that was the big pivot point for me, because I realized that even though I was in the hospital recovering from this massive surgery, I was able to buy 2 deals, work with my brother, who was essentially our boots on the ground, to get those deals done. We made about $80,000, and I was able to control a pretty significant amount of that deal because I was able to get the capital, and the capital I was able to control the deal. So I tell my audience, funding equals freedom, and it sounds like your journey is very much the same way. It was your private investor that funded that deal. So funding allowed you to create freedom over time because you realize you don't have to have a large amount of capital. It's not just for the wealthy, and you can do deals with other people's money. So what was it like for you, Sterling, when you realized after this first deal, the second deal, the 10th deal, you're like, wow, this really could be my go forward future. This could be my plan. This could be my plan to be wealthy, my plan to create financial independence. What was the excitement level like after you realized that these self-limiting beliefs were not really true?
Gosh, I would say to this day, and I know it's the cliche thing that people say, you do something you love, you don't have to work a day in your life. Yes, I enjoy real estate, having the financial freedom. I'm a minimalist, so it doesn't take much for me to get to that figure, and hasn't taken much to get there. But myself personally, what I really enjoy most is the actual work itself. And so when I just recently acquired a 156 unit apartment, I took that from start to finish. Of course, there was a team involved still. However, I was the main point of contact. And even during that, when it was actually closed, I was like, yay, on to the next one, first type thing. So that's nice. Enjoyment I get more out of that. that side.
Nice. So what about the work? Like, how does the work make you feel? Like when you're in the middle of a deal, you get a hold of an owner, you get an LOI out, a PSA signed, you take the deal down, and then the real work begins, right? You don't really jump into this business and if you think you're going to be able to just outsource everything and sit back. You and I both know that the boots on the ground operator, the guy that's there every day, filling up units, turning over units, doing value add improvements, that's the guy or the gal that makes pro formas become profits. That's the real work.
Exactly.
Right. So what's that like for you? You say the work is very fulfilling. You like the work. Tell us a little bit more about that day-to-day process.
So I'm more on the front end with finding the deal, and then I hand it off to the COO of the company, and she's an absolute monster in terms of when it comes to the day-to-day operations of property management, and had formal experience working as a regional. So have a full team that has a construction manager, a leasing manager, a COO who manages all the on-site property managers. So that's how that comes into play. I'm more of just finding the deal, executing on that. Because formerly I was in the day-to-day of the property management, and that is not and this is self-awareness, which is one thing that has really helped me along my entrepreneur journey, is determining what areas that I am strong in. Whether that's God-given talents, I'm more of an extrovert, love marketing, well, I wouldn't say getting kicked in the face, but I'm not as...
I'm really good at getting kicked in the face.
Yeah, exactly. I don't internalize it, but there's things that I'm weak in, which is managing people. That's not something I enjoy, or numbers. That's not something I like to do as well. So ended up putting people in place to offset those weaknesses to where I can further focus on my strengths, and that allowed the company to scale even more.
Love that self-awareness. So let's go a little deeper there. So what would you say right now is your top 1 or 2 or 3 strengths, and how focused are you on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, making sure that you're working in that swim lane?
I would say sales is my primary one. I train sales on a day-to-day basis, and that's also what I enjoy about the work itself, is the process that it takes to take these deals down, because you have to improve as an individual as you start, because there's different levels is the way I view it, and so you have to pick up the necessary skills to be more value to the marketplace. And gosh, there was another question. What were you? What was that question?
Well, just how do you stay focused, like on a day-to-day basis, on those things that you know that are in your swim lane?
Gotcha. Yeah. So I would say sales and then marketing. When I mention sales is just a property acquisitions, that's my main go-to, and then the marketing with being the face and the brand of the company with bringing investors on board. So that's my main focus with content marketing. Which is value, exactly what we're doing on this podcast, is being of value to individuals and some investors. That's good lead generation for investors. And then secondly is the acquisitions, with building up that team on that side to where they make all these calls now, and then they set the appointment with me when the owner is now interested and raises their hand.
Yeah, love it. So help me understand your content marketing strategy. Is it primarily podcasting, blogging, Facebook Lives? What's really the goal of that? It's branding,
Yes.
acquisition of properties, relationships with private lenders. And maybe if somebody's never raised any money, or somebody's never created a brand, maybe they've just, they own 10 units or 50 units, but they've primarily done it on their own, never really raised any capital. Talk about the importance of content marketing. What benefits come out of that?
Gosh, I don't even know I need to come down. I'm getting jazzed up really now. And I would say the content marketing and I believe the era that we're moving into is that the personal brand has been very crucial, because working to brand under a company is even more, I feel just personally, and this is the way I've done things, is even more difficult to build a brand through yourself. So you would be the brand, and then everything would funnel up to whatever companies that you have. So through the digital marketing side, so being a contributor on Bigger Pockets with videos, blogging, and then also through social channels, using video content as well, and then having a podcast. So all that is just lead generation to value creation, push the brand myself out into the marketplace, because the overarching thing is people do business with who they know.
Right. That's fantastic. What's your favorite content marketing strategy? Is it podcasting? What do you like to do the most to get your face out there, your word out there, to create new relationships, make new contacts?
I would say video at this present time. It is huge. And I saw one of your videos where you were talking about it's even just as powerful as sitting down with someone on a one-to-one basis, the power of video, right? And so if you're someone who is not shy to it, the power of it right now, and especially with all the algorithms out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, they're more inclined, if you post a video content, to push it out as much as possible.
Yeah, I love it. In my newest real estate investing book, The Flip System, you'll learn the proven secrets and strategies that I've used to be a successful real estate investor. You'll also hear the story of my journey from quitting my job to doing over 2,000 units of apartments. The Flip System is now available for a limited time, and you can grab your free copy at getflipsystem.com/podcast. You'll learn the same proven principles and secrets and investing strategies that I used to quit my job and pursue a life of financial freedom. In this book, I'm sharing exactly how I was able to personally close over 750 profitable real estate deals, make over 400 private lender loans, raise over $30 million, and acquire over 2,000 units of cash flowing apartments. Get my newest book now for free at getflipsystem.com/podcast. That's getflipsystem.com/podcast. So, Sterling, switching gears over a little bit to your actual deal structure, I'm curious to hear, not only for my audience, but also for myself, as we talked about kind of getting ready for this podcast. I love to invest in apartments. We're primarily a debt and equity shop that we fund deals on the debt side. We fund equity as well. We invest with teams. We invest with JV partners and operators. So walk us through a deal. Walk us through a deal that you've done in the past. There's some private investors, lenders on this line that are looking for deal flow. I'm always looking for deal flow, debt and equity. Help us understand a deal that you've done. Was it something that you bought at a steep discount, did a bunch of value add improvements, and then refinanced into permanent financing with, started with a bridge loan, maybe went to permanent? Is it more of a traditional syndication where maybe the GP ends up with 20-30% of a deal and the LPs end up with 70 or 80? Help me understand your deal structure. What's your favorite kind of deal to do?
Yeah, so I would say the very traditional route, where there was one asset just recently, got it at a discount because went direct to owner, saved between about $400,000 to $600,000 on that by going direct, because we were able to ask some brokers, hey, what do you believe you would have been able to list this for and actually get out of it? So I believe actually saved more than that. So it was $3.3 million in terms of purchase price, and then the lender came in and we put down 25%, and that was equity from ours. We put down a co-investment as a company, and then the remaining came from investor partners, and then raised an additional amount of cash to take care of improvements. This was a lighter rehab in terms of, it was about $300,000 worth of renovation. So
yeah, that's pretty light.
Yeah, not even the other ones I've been involved with are a lot more heavy lifting than that. And so on that, I believe the split was either 70-30 or 80-20 in terms of how the split works.
Got it. And is the plan, did you walk into it on day one with permanent financing and you're going to hold it for 5 years and exit? You refinance after 3, 5, 7 years? What's the long-term plan?
Yeah, so on that specific one, the strategy is always buy and hold versus going in and flipping. So that the term on that is 7 years. If I'm not, it's either 6 or 7 years on the actual debt. And within that, going to push up the value of the asset because it was under rented about $75 to $95 per unit. So push up the value. And then in the 5th year, which is about 3 years from now, plan on refinancing out, return all cash to investor partners, and they earn infinite cash because they're still invested into the deal.
Yeah, they retain some equity, right? Maybe half a point or a point and a half, depending on the deal. That's fantastic. So Sterling, if as you look forward to 2020 and you look on a go forward basis. You said you're a minimalist, which I really appreciate. I remember the time when I was a minimalist before I was married with 3 kids, and my bills were like this big, and now they're like this big. Kids in private school and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really fun. But I remember being a minimalist. I really appreciate that. So help me understand that part of your life, a little bit outside of the business world. You like to keep things simple. You like to keep things minimal, have, small obligations, and a pretty free lifestyle. So help us understand your thoughts around that. Why did you choose that route? And kind of describe that to us. What does that look like?
I would say, and it's so funny when people say it to me, they're like, "You're just so simple." I never even look at it that way. When someone walks into where I live, it looks like as if I just moved in. That's how simple I keep things. And when I traveled to, for instance, Dubai for a week, I just had a backpack. Just so. From that, I believe just on the business side, things are so complex, so many moving parts, employees, payroll, guys going direct to owner, all these different things. So I believe everything outside of that. I have a 7-year-old little angel too, and she's quite a bit in herself with all the things with the kid. And so I believe if I can keep my life simple as possible, that's how I view things, because it's so complicated on the business side. I don't want also my life to be as complicated and complex. So I just try and keep it as simple as possible.
There you go. That's fantastic. It's going to be more complicated, I promise you, as your 7-year-old becomes an 11-year-old, becomes a 13-year-old. It is quite a journey being a father. And I have 3 little kids, right? They're 11, 10, and 8. And when they were, just coming into grade school, it was really easy, like the preschool years. And then now that they're all in school on a regular basis is awesome. But, they're all into travel volleyball and club sports. And it's
all girls or
girl, boy. Yeah. Juliana, Alessandra, and Dominic. And they're all traveling with sports. It's amazing because I'm a sports guy. I love to coach and stuff like that. But I promise you, Sterling, you won't be a minimalist forever.
Oh gosh! All right.
That is awesome. So, Sterling, kind of final question. Passing along all this content, I really appreciate you being open, honest, kind of just transparent with us today. If you were going back and talking to your former younger self, the man that was maybe just getting started in real estate, or maybe the man that was just doing residential and pivoting into commercial, and look back at those kind of inflection points, now that you're further along in your journey, what would you reach back and tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself? What things would you tell yourself? Hey, do this differently, or hey, you did this really well. You should have done more of that. Help us understand what you'd kind of advise yourself on looking back.
I would say investing in myself more, meaning going to. So at that time, I was really in onto the self-improvement side. However, attending more conferences, sales. So I believe if I knew that even sooner than I do now, that how important and how crucial it is to just not even just in business itself, but life. There's negotiations where just goes back to my little 7-year-old daughter, my angel. I have to negotiate on why, hey, because either you're doing the selling or you're being sold, so she can sell me on why it's not important to do her homework or practice her gymnastics moves, or I could sell her on why the importance is. So I believe just looking back is, Sterling, investing yourself more on the sales side, and then also what the capital that you do earn from your business, take that and invest it back into yourself as well. So attending conferences, boot camps, and just traveling more to further just skill up to where I can be even more valuable to the marketplace.
That's fantastic. And Sterling, last question is where do you see your investing going? You're at 500 units now, 150 resi, 350 commercial. Tell me what you see in yourself in the next 1 to 2 to 5 years. Where do you want to get to, and what do you think it'll take to get there?
Gotcha. So on a daily basis, this is one thing that's really helped me too, and looking back to is on a daily, I write my goals down. So one of the goals that I have is to own over 3,000 units across the Midwest, and that's owned by myself personally. So that's one goal that I have, and that's just strictly on the multifamily side. And just to one thing that I also write down is just I am the creator of my destiny. So I'm always focused on just further being on the self-improvement and being more self-aware. Because one of the things that I just recently heard that just really just hit me at that moment was that where I am today is a composite of all of the choices that I've made up to this point. And I thought that was huge. So there's things definitely myself that I know I need to work on. Business, there's family. So one thing that I really want to hone in is just being more family oriented and building more relationships and having friends. So I feel on the entrepreneur side, it's been quite lonely, and I haven't been able to dedicate to put focus into that. So those are things that I really want to just key in, is just being more self-aware as an individual and just keep scaling up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what I find too is often the people, if you associate within the circles that you're running in business and turn those into friendly relationships, football games, basketball games, going to concerts, just, having breaking bread with people, those personal relationships become really exciting because you have so much in common, right? So much in common when it comes to business, multifamily, raising money, owning apartments or owning rental properties, and associating with them outside of work allows you to then, when you're just kind of BSing during a timeout or during halftime of a game, and you just really enjoy being around those people. My personal relationships have definitely morphed over the years. I'm very lucky to have retained a lot of my high school and college relationships with my buddies. But I've also really enjoyed the conversations with people that are, really business related relationships that have turned into friendships. It's really, really exciting. Those are some of my favorite football games and basketball games to attend because we have so much in common, so much to talk about. It's really, really exciting. So Sterling, if any of my audience wanted to reach out to you, connect with you, invest with you, joint venture with you, learn more about your material, see some of your content, what's a great place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so one is you can visit sondarinvestmentgroup.com. That's my main platform where I have all my holdings through. And then if you're on biggerpockets.com, and if you're not, it's a completely free resource, not not affiliated by any means. I just contribute content on there. And through that is, what was I going to mention is slide into the DM if you happen to have any questions.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So there you guys have it. Sterling White, thanks so much for joining us on Accelerated Investor.
Make 2020 your year. Woo!
You've been listening to Josh Cantwell and the Accelerated Investor Podcast. Leave a comment on our iTunes channel and let us know what you want to learn next or who you'd like Josh to interview. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating and make sure to subscribe so you can be the first to hear new episodes. Follow Josh Cantwell and his companies, Strategic Real Estate Coach and Freeland Ventures, on all social media platforms now, and stay up to date on new training and investment opportunities to start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Apply for coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com.